They say that after 60, life is supposed to slow down, but in truth, it often becomes more complicated. People encourage you to find a partner so you won't be alone, to keep going, to believe it's never too late to start over. Yet no one warns you about the hidden cost, sacrificing your peace, your independence, and sometimes even your dignity. At this stage of life, mistakes aren't measured in wasted years anymore. They're measured in the peace of mind that never returns. That's why today, I want to walk you through 8 lessons in stoicism and emotional intelligence that reveal why entering a relationship at 60 or 70 can be a costly mistake if you haven't first secured your inner peace, your boundaries, and your purpose. We won't chase empty romantic ideals. We'll face the real issues: money, health, adult children, sexuality, loneliness, and freedom. Let's begin. And before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe for more life lessons and wisdom in later years. Number 1. Your peace before a partner. When you reach your 60s or 70s, the most valuable thing you have isn't your retirement account, your home, or even your possessions. It's your peace of mind. That calm silence that lets you drift off to sleep without worry. Sip your morning coffee without rush, read a book without interruption, and move at your own pace. The strange thing is, many people at this age throw themselves into searching for a partner, believing companionship will ease loneliness. But what often happens is they lose the very thing they spent decades building: serenity. And I ask you, does it make sense to give up your peace simply to avoid being alone? Stoicism reminds us of something essential. The only thing truly under your control is your mind, your choices, your perspective, the way you interpret events. But when you allow someone into your life who brings chaos, that control slips away. You can't control their temperament, their past, their family, or their routines. Yet many cling to the illusion that love can fix everything. Love is beautiful, yes, but it does not pay the price of your calm. Try a Stoic practice called premeditatio malorum, anticipating what might go wrong. Imagine a relationship that starts well but slowly turns sour. Arguments creep in over meals, household order, or uninvited visits from their children. Picture nights when you want silence and a book, but they want the TV blasting until midnight. What once felt like comfort becomes an invasion of your sacred space. I once knew a retired woman who remarried at 65 because she feared loneliness. At first, she felt reassured, but soon he criticized her cooking, imposed his schedule, and disrupted her peace. She realized too late that she had given away her greatest treasure, her freedom to live calmly. Separation followed, leaving her with new scars and less trust. Here's a practical test. Ask yourself, with this person, how many hours of peace do I gain each week, and how many do I lose? If the balance tips toward loss, the answer is obvious. Peace is priceless and should never be placed on the bargaining table. Let me be blunt. Love that destroys your peace isn't love. It's noise. At this stage of life, serenity counts more than companionship. Because true loneliness is not being without a partner, it's losing yourself in someone else's presence. Stoicism teaches us to guard the mind as our greatest treasure. And remember, being with someone only to escape solitude is the most expensive mistake you can make in your later years. Number 2, loneliness is not failure. There's a deeply rooted belief that damages many people as they age. The idea that being alone means you've failed. As if your worth were measured by whether or not someone sits beside you at the dinner table. But isn't chosen solitude also a victory? A victory of having reached the stage where you no longer beg for company just to feel complete? I'll never forget one quiet Sunday years ago. I had no plans, no one at home. At first, that familiar discomfort crept in. How strange to be alone on a Sunday. But as the day unfolded, I found something different. I cooked my favorite meal without compromise. I listened to music I loved without negotiation. I finally opened a book that had waited too long on my shelf. That day I realized something profound. Solitude, when chosen, isn't punishment. It's a blessing. It marked a turning point in how I relate to myself. This is where emotional intelligence becomes powerful. First, through self-awareness, pausing to observe your feelings when you're alone, naming them without judgment. Second, through self-care, creating small rituals that honor solitude like morning walks, journaling, or brewing tea with intention. And third, through cognitive reframing, shifting the phrase, "I'm alone," into, "I'm available for what truly nourishes me." That small change in language reprograms your mind to see solitude differently. Here's a useful exercise: the companionship log. Track a week and note the moments you most enjoy in solitude, the ones you prefer with friends, and the ones that matter most with family or a partner. You'll likely discover that nourishing solitude shows up more often than you realized. You just hadn't acknowledged it before. The people who suffer most from loneliness are often those who never learn to feel at ease with themselves. And here lies the paradox. When they enter relationships, they carry an unfair burden to the other person. Make me happy, fill my emptiness. But no one can fill an emptiness that only self-respect can heal. Stoicism is clear. It isn't external things that disturb us, but the way we interpret them. Being alone isn't inherently painful. What hurts are the labels you attach to it. I'm invisible. No one loves me. I'm useless now. But these are not facts. They are beliefs, and beliefs can be challenged, reframed, and replaced. Ask yourself honestly, would you rather live with solitude that gives you freedom, or with company that steals your peace? Because in truth, solitude is never failure. Failure is not having learned to appreciate it. So the next time someone looks at you and says, "It's such a shame you're alone," smile quietly. Because you know the real shame would be betraying yourself just to avoid an empty chair. Chosen solitude is not a void. It's fertile soil where your freedom grows again. If these words touched your heart and sparked inspiration within you, leave a 3 in the comments to let it shine. If they did not, leave a 0 in quiet honesty. Every thought you share is a gift. Thank you for giving us a moment of your precious time. Number 3, money sets the terms of the relationship. Few things create as much tension in later life as money, and yet, it's the subject most people avoid when starting a relationship. They'd rather lean on the vague hope of, "We'll figure it out," as though love alone has the power to pay bills, cover pensions, or manage inheritances. But here's the truth. Unresolved money issues often become the silent knife that cuts ties. At this stage of life, finances are no longer just numbers. They represent dignity, stability, and respect. I've seen couples who seemed perfectly fine, until the first argument over who pays for dinner, or when suspicion creeps in that one person may not be seeking companionship but financial security. Love mixed with doubt about hidden motives turns toxic quickly. That's why I recommend something I call the peace budget. Sit down together, write out the real cost of living, list each person's income, and decide what's shared and what's personal. This isn't about surveillance, it's about clarity. Because when the numbers are transparent, the heart rests. When they're not, manipulation slips in disguised as affection. "If you love me, don't question my spending." Or, "If you trust me, just hand over your card." Healthy love has no need for secrecy. I remember a 72-year-old man who told his story in a workshop. He began a relationship with a widow in his neighborhood. For a while, everything felt natural, until she asked to merge accounts. Out of trust, he agreed. Within months, he realized his savings were vanishing on things he neither valued nor enjoyed. The relationship ended in bitterness. He said something I'll never forget. Losing the money didn't hurt. Giving it in exchange for mistrust did. The warning signs are usually there. A rush to combine assets, dodging the money talk, dependence cloaked in romance. Don't ignore them. They're not quirks, they're red flags. And this is where stoic prudence applies. You can't control how another person manages their finances, but you can control what agreements you set before taking irreversible steps. And those agreements don't kill romance. They strengthen it, because they strip away suspicion. Money defines the terms of a relationship because it sets roles without masks. It isn't the enemy of love. When handled with honesty, it's love's ally. At this age, the last thing you need is a financial war. What you need is peace, clarity, and protection for the stability you've worked so hard to build. Number 4, living together is not mandatory. There's a belief so ingrained it feels like law. If you're in a relationship, you must share a roof. But who wrote that rule? Love cannot be measured in square footage. At 60 or 70, you've already built routines, preferences, even favorite chairs. Forcing 2 complete lives into one household can create more battles than bliss. I've known couples whose relationships were saved precisely because they did not live together. Each had their own home, their own rhythm, and they met on weekends or special occasions. No fights about clutter. No arguments about the TV volume. No unexpected visits from each other's children or grandchildren. This model, known as living apart together, is quietly growing among older adults, though many hesitate to admit it for fear of criticism. Yet, for some, it's the key to harmony. I recall a couple in their late 60s. She loved the silence of mornings, sipping her coffee in stillness. He needed music the second he woke up, as if a melody jump-started his day. She went to bed early, ending with a prayer or a book. He came alive at night, inspired in the quiet hours after midnight. For a while, they tried living together. They hoped love would bridge their differences, but instead, friction mounted. Small arguments, tense silences, even resentment. Then, with wisdom greater than fear, they made a bold choice. Each returned to their own home. Not out of lack of love, but out of respect for themselves. From then on, they met with anticipation, joy, and gratitude. No longer worn down by daily clashes, their relationship actually blossomed. Ironically, by giving each other space, they grew closer. This taught them, and can teach us, that living together is not always the path to love. Sometimes the real secret is space, respect, and freedom. Because tenderness can also mean not imposing, not demanding, not crowding. Love isn't about proving commitment with shared walls. It's about recognizing each other fully, then choosing, again and again, to meet. Here's where practicality enters. Are your sleep patterns compatible? Can you handle each other's quirks, whether neat or messy? What about pets, visitors, or grandkids who drop in unexpectedly? These aren't small details. In daily life, they become mountains. If you're unsure, try what I call the 30-day cohabitation pilot. Think of it as a test drive. Spend a month under the same roof. Not to test the love, you already know that, but to see if your peace survives their presence. Because affection can handle dinners and weekend trips. Everyday life requires deeper compatibility. Stoicism reminds us not to confuse necessity with choice. Loving someone doesn't obligate you to sacrifice your habits, your space, or your autonomy. Love can thrive side by side, or across town. So don't let social pressure dictate, if you love each other, you must live together. No. If you love each other, you'll design a life that protects both of your peace. Because at this stage, the true luxury isn't a shared house. It's the freedom to decide how you want to live love. Number 5, boundaries from day one. One of the biggest mistakes people make when entering a relationship later in life is assuming boundaries aren't necessary anymore. that at this age, two people should just get it. But the truth is the opposite. At 60 or 70, clarity is more urgent than ever. By now, life has already taught you a hard lesson. What isn't said early ends up costing you dearly. Boundaries aren't walls to push people away. They're doors that protect what matters most: your time, your energy, your health, your routines, and your peace. What happens if you don't set them? You already know. Arguments erupt over surprise visits. Tension builds over money. Children or grandchildren interfere. Constant phone calls interrupt your rest. The real problem isn't the partner. It's your failure to define your limits from the very beginning. I remember sitting in on a workshop in Mexico City years ago where an older couple shared their struggle. The woman said, "I need my mornings in silence to read the Bible, but he talks nonstop from the moment he wakes up." And the man replied, "I feel like if I don't talk to her, she doesn't love me." Neither of them was wrong, but what was missing was a clear boundary. They'll appreciate them because you've handed them a map of how to love you well. On the other hand, if someone resists or mocks your boundaries, they're showing you their priority isn't your peace, it's their convenience. So don't be afraid to say from day one, this is a yes, this is a no, this is something we'll revisit. Don't view it as harshness, view it as self-respect. Because a relationship without boundaries is like a river that's flooded its banks. It destroys everything in its path. But with boundaries, that river flows, nourishes, and gives life. Number 6, close, unresolved grief. Another mistake people make when starting a relationship later in life is believing the past no longer matters. That's behind me, we tell ourselves. But the truth is, what isn't faced gets carried forward. Unresolved grief from divorce, widowhood, infidelity, or even old dreams that never came true slips into new relationships like silent ghosts. And sooner or later, those ghosts start speaking. I've met women who still compared every new partner to the husband they lost 20 years ago. I've met men who snapped at a current companion over wounds that really belonged to their ex-wife. The problem wasn't the person in front of them. It was the emotional debt of the past. And the cruelest part is this: when we don't heal, we make someone new carry pain that was never theirs to bear. This is where Stoicism reminds us of radical acceptance. The past cannot be changed, but we can decide how to carry it. And emotional intelligence offers a path forward. Name what you feel, honor what happened, express gratitude for what you learned, then release what no longer serves you. One powerful practice is writing a closure letter. You don't send it. It's for you. Write to the person from your past or even to the younger version of yourself. Say what you never said. Pour out your grief, your anger, your gratitude, and then say goodbye with dignity. I had to do this myself years ago. Even after decades, I realized I was still carrying anger and unanswered questions from a broken relationship. One night, I sat down to write. Pages and pages poured out. I cried. I laughed. I raged all over again. But when I finished, I felt lighter, as if I'd finally closed a chapter that had been left open too long. So ask yourself, what scar do you still touch when no one is watching? What memory still brings tears or bitterness? Those are signs of unresolved grief. Don't shame yourself for it, but don't ignore it either. Until you close it, it will keep robbing you of peace in any new relationship. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes that says, "There is a time for everything, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance." Healing doesn't come by denying grief. It comes by walking through it until it finds its proper place in memory. So before opening the door to a new partner, open the box of your past and put things in order. Not to erase it, but to release it. Because only when you close those wounds with love and gratitude can you look at someone new with clear eyes, free of shadows. And believe me, there's no greater gift to yourself and to them than to begin clean, unchained from yesterday. Number 7. Take care of your health first. One of the most common traps in relationships later in life is believing that love alone is enough to hold everything together. But here's the hard truth. Love doesn't cure diabetes. It doesn't replace the cardiologist. And it certainly won't remind you to take your blood pressure medication if you're not disciplined enough to do it yourself. In your 60s and 70s, health becomes the very foundation of your existence. If your body isn't cared for, sooner or later the relationship turns into a source of strain rather than support. Illnesses, fatigue, and physical limitations quietly erode patience, affection, and even the simple joy of being together. I've seen it countless times. Two people start with hope and enthusiasm, but before long, arguments arise. One wants to walk daily, the other resists. One pushes for doctor visits, the other avoids them. What begins as companionship slowly transforms into frustration. When energy is missing, tolerance tends to vanish as well. A small issue, like staying up late or eating poorly, becomes a mountain. What once seemed like a minor difference grows into a wedge that pushes two people apart. This is where Stoicism gives us a clear reminder. Focus on what is within your control. You can't stop every illness or slow down time. But you can decide every single day how you treat your body, what you eat, how much you move, and whether you listen to its signals. That responsibility can't be handed to anyone else. Not a partner, not children, not even the best doctor. It's yours. Here's something practical. Before making a wellness agreement with another person, make one with yourself. Ask, what are my basic health routines? Am I committed to protecting them, even inside a relationship? And am I willing to respect someone else's routines without abandoning my own? That kind of clarity saves heartache. Your agreement could include bedtime, daily exercise, diet, or even how often you keep medical checkups. I think back to a friend in his 70s who faced this exact dilemma. He was disciplined, ate clean, walked daily, stayed on top of his care. The woman he was drawn to didn't want to hear a word about doctors or nutrition. For a while, attraction carried them forward. But eventually he saw it plainly. Their lifestyles weren't compatible. Choosing her would mean sacrificing his health. So he made the difficult but wise choice to walk away. There's also a simple practice the Stoics often used: steady breathing to calm the mind before making tough choices. Try inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 2, and exhaling for 6. Repeat 3 times. Notice how your clarity sharpens when your body is calm. Never forget, your partner can sit beside you at an appointment. They can encourage you through recovery. But they cannot exercise for you, eat for you, or protect your body in your place. If you don't prioritize your health, you are building love on shaky ground, one small crack away from collapse. In the end, what sustains a mature relationship isn't just affection. It's two people who, despite limitations, take responsibility for their own well-being and respect each other's choices. Love cannot solve everything, but discipline, temperance, and mutual care can prevent a great deal of unnecessary suffering. And at this age, prevention is always wiser than regret. Number 8. Align with your adult children. Now we arrive at one of the most delicate challenges: your children. Starting a relationship in your 60s or 70s doesn't happen in a vacuum. Behind you stands a full history: adult children, grandchildren, and family ties that shape every decision. Many older adults underestimate this. They think their happiness will be celebrated without question, but often children react with jealousy, suspicion, or worry. Some fear losing inheritance. Others worry about money or health burdens. And some, out of genuine love, simply don't want to see you get hurt again. But when those concerns mix together, they create pressure. Suddenly you're second-guessing your decisions, not because you doubt yourself, but because you fear disappointing those you love. I recall a woman who once told me her story. Widowed for several years, she began seeing a kind man her age. For the first time in a long time, she felt happy. But when she told her children, their response wasn't joy, it was anger. What about the house? What if he only wants your pension? Her smile dimmed. Love, which should have been a blessing, turned into a source of guilt. This is where Stoicism offers the principle of justice, giving each person what belongs to them. Your children deserve respect, attention, and honesty, but your life still belongs to you. Explaining your decisions is one thing, handing them control is another. Loving your children doesn't mean surrendering your freedom. So how do you navigate this? First, be transparent. If the relationship is serious, introduce your partner. Make it clear your finances are organized and your goal is peace, not recklessness. Second, set rules of respect. No insults, no interference in your private space. Third, protect separate times. Moments only for your partner, moments only for your family. That balance avoids unnecessary friction. The Bible puts it simply: a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife. Matthew 19:5. Every adult life needs its own space. In later years, this principle still holds true. You have fulfilled your role as a parent. Now you have the right to autonomy without guilt. Ask yourself, do you want your children to be allies in this chapter or judges of your happiness? The answer isn't easy, but it is essential. If you don't align expectations early, family conflict can erode not only your relationship, but also your inner peace. Remember this: honoring your children and honoring your freedom are not opposites. They can exist together if you speak clearly and stand firm. Your children have lived their lives. Now it's your turn to live yours. At the end of the day, building a relationship in your 60s or 70s isn't just about romance. It's about protecting the peace you've worked so hard to create, honoring the health that sustains you, and balancing the love you feel for family with the freedom you still deserve. Remember, you've carried responsibilities for decades. Now you have the right to choose clarity over confusion, peace over conflict, and dignity over pressure. If you take nothing else from today's message, let it be this: your well-being is not selfish. It's sacred. And the more you prioritize it, the more every connection, whether with a partner, your children, or your community, becomes healthier and more meaningful. You don't have to live by old rules. You can live by wisdom. I want to thank you for spending this time with me, reflecting on what truly matters. If these insights spoke to you, help spread the word. Like this video, share it with someone who might need the reminder, and subscribe for more lessons on living with wisdom, balance, and courage. Together, we're building a community that proves aging doesn't mean fading. It means growing stronger, clearer, and freer than ever.